excited, I think, as our the fellow commissioners, to hear the progress on the Senior Ambassador Program. And we're going to ask at this time if there is any public comment in the queue. We do take public comment of 2 minutes, and as at the beginning of the meeting. Helen, is there anyone who has requested that opportunity?
There was no one who requested it via email, but if there is anyone here who wants to offer public comment. Okay, I would just ask then that if anyone is not speaking, if you please mute yourself. I'm hearing quite a bit of background noise. So thank you.
Can I just make one comment? This is Wendy Zenker. And it's because I see Andrea Walker's face in front of me right now. I just want to congratulate Andrea for the award she won last Thursday night, which I believe was Volunteer of the Year, for everything she's done for Walking School Bus and other initiatives. So just a shout out to Andrea.
Absolutely. You stole some of my thunder, but thank you, Andrea, for all you do.
Oh, sorry.
No
You
worries.
guys.
The same for you. You do just a fabulous job, and we're grateful for all that everyone does.
Okay.
Thank you for acknowledging.
Yeah, I saw Wendy there too. Right.
Okay. All right. Any other comments? Excellent. We're going to move forward with the presentation by Wendy and Michelle. And Wendy, if you'll do the courtesy of introductions, I'll let you take it away.
Thanks so much. And I believe that I'm joined today by my colleagues, Michelle McMahon, and I'm going to be scared to pronounce Mahi's name, so I will leave it up to her. And that's mostly because I could mispronounce it from the very beginning. You guys would always think, oh, that's her name, and you would be wrong. So I'll give Michelle and Mahi an opportunity. Why don't you just now say your names, if you don't mind.
If I'm unmuted, it's hard to tell.
No.
My name's Michelle McMahon. I'm a volunteer at A&V and working on the program. Mahi?
Hi, everyone. My name is Mahadra Maramdangi, and I'm also helping out with the A&V Ambassador Program. It's nice
Great.
to meet you all.
Mahi, could you bring up the slide deck?
Yes.
So thanks, everybody, for the opportunity to bring you all up to date on what had been called the Senior Ambassador Program. And I say that had been called because one of the things that the team is doing is looking for another name for the Senior Ambassador Program, because we're not in love with the word senior, but we haven't landed on that name yet. But I know Senior Ambassador Program is what we all know from work that we've done up to this point. The second thing I want to do is just do a shout out to Cheryl Beversdorf, who has championed this program for the past, I would say 2, perhaps more years. I'm sure that it's more than 2 years. She believed that an ambassador program was absolutely needed in Arlington. She'd seen it working in other jurisdictions. She knew about it. She wanted to promote it. And she included it, as we all included, in Arlington's age-friendly plan. So good news is Cheryl did phenomenal work shepherding this program through the age-friendly process and getting it set up here in Arlington. And I know that at one point I look like my freen scroll, so I hope that we're not going to have internet problems as we go on. So Mahi's brought up.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, you can bigger it a bit.
There we go. So let's go on to, the first thing, for those of you who aren't familiar, let me tell you a little bit about Arlington Neighborhood Village, because right now Arlington Neighborhood Village is the program lead for the Ambassador Program. I think many of you know that we are a volunteer-driven nonprofit that's dedicated to helping older adults in Arlington age in their own homes safely, independently, and with an enhanced quality of life. We do this by providing what we call the extra help that an older adult needs to age in place. That often includes transportation, because they're not driving anymore and public transportation may not be readily available to them. So transportation to medical appointments, grocery shopping, bank and library. We run errands for people. We offer technology help, whether that's on a laptop, a cell phone, a flip phone, or making your remote control work for the TV. We run errands. We're a walking companion. We're a friendly visitor, and we do daily check-in calls for people. Today, we're 365 members, 240 volunteers. And if we look at the past year, we were able to fulfill 3,200 and service requests. And those service requests, when we talk about transportation, that means, round trip rides to a place, not one-way rides. And our volunteers donated 9,100 hours of service to the organization. So given that that's who we are, the question is why A&V? As I mentioned, the Arlington Ambassador Program is part of our Arlington Age-Friendly Plan. We volunteered to try to oversee and manage the program, but that was predicated on being able to raise some money. And luckily, the Arlington Community Foundation stepped up this time last year with what they referred to as their age-friendly catalog. They made an opportunity available to the community to support things like the Arlington Ambassador Program. They also supported the Walking School Bus. They supported Culpeper Garden and many other nonprofits here in Arlington that work with seniors. So we were very lucky to receive a Community Foundation grant of about $10,000. And much more recently, kudos to us and AARP, but we received a Community Challenge grant for $10,000. So those two grants are giving us the funding we need to hire Michelle as a consultant to lead the effort, to have Mahi come on as an intern, and to provide other resources for the expenses that we're going to incur in creating this age-friendly plan. We're doing it along with Marymount University and with Arlington County government. Both of those organizations are absolute partners with us in getting this project off the ground. Next slide. So I'm going to just quickly, the oversight of the program, and then I'm going to turn it over to Michelle. It's got two pieces to it. One is to create a database of organizations that are providing programs and services to older adults in Arlington. From that database, we're going to create a handbook. And then that handbook is going to be used to train ambassadors in communities throughout Arlington. And Michelle, let me hand it over to you to go into a little bit more detail on this.
Hey everyone, it's Michelle. So Mahi is going to share just some screen grabs. We have created a monster spreadsheet, if you will, that lists the programs, services that we have been researching in the county, sponsored by the county, other nonprofits, A&V and other nonprofits, as well as we will include some for-profits that offer services. Next slide, Mahi. So the handbook that we're creating is literally initially going to be a 3-ring binder that will be handed to each of the new ambassadors, the new recruits. We would like eventually to have a website resource as well so that we have it digitally for lots of different reasons. But for the initial launch, it will be a hard copy binder for people to carry to help people in their community, to give them information about the different programs and services that are available to seniors. Next slide, Mahi. So for the handbook, we have divided the programs and services into categories. And these are the categories that we have landed on so far. This is a work in progress. So right now we are bucketing different programs and services in these categories. I imagine we will add others and possibly even combine some of these. As we start to see the numbers that are in the categories, we will adjust it before we finalize the listing. Next slide. And then this is just a screen grab of that spreadsheet that I told you about. You can see along the bottom, we have our different categories, and we are creating text, contact information, sort of additional information, and we will be sharing with stakeholders what we develop before we move forward to design any pages in the handbook. So we are gathering the information, sharing it with stakeholders, and then we will be creating the pages to go into the handbook once we have the copy finalized. And so we have some very initial designs that Mahi will walk you through. Nothing has moved very far forward, but we're just starting to play around with how we could present this the different programs and services in the handbook. Here we go. Are you on mute, Mahi? Yeah, I think you are.
All right.
There you go.
So can you see my screen? Just wanted
Yes.
to check.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is what we envision for the handbook is to have two different ways of representing each organization. One is through the services that they offer, and the other is an overall introduction about the organization, the type of services they have for older adults, and maybe a few more information. So initially, the rough draft we have is for Arlington Neighborhood Village because they do offer various services for older adults. We thought incorporating it in this way might be a good idea. Essentially, we would have an about us information and then their services, maybe a short blurb about more or less explaining what the vision of the organization is, and if it's a membership program, what the member benefits are. The other way we want to represent each organization and the services they offer is through what category they are a part of. So this is for transportation services. We wanted to have a short paragraph that explained what it was, if it's a membership program, and also have a form for information on any information, just a form information page. Here you can see it's a bit different in terms of we have also a short information. This is just to highlight something, maybe there are some things that are additional to the services that are offered. So we would just wanted to highlight those so that people could actually easily view them. And it's more or less similar throughout, where we just wanted to represent it in a similar way. That way older adults can have an easier way of understanding what each services and what they can get as well. So let me just go over all of them so you can see what it's sort of looks like. And we're planning on making a lot of adjustments for color and other things. So, but this is essentially the rough draft that we do have so far. And the second step that we're going to be doing once the handbook has been finalized or is near completion is we're going to reach out to communities across Arlington, and we want to recruit volunteers who are going to go to their community and talk about these programs and these services, and hopefully get more older adults to know about the programs and services that they have in their neighborhood. So we hope to do this through diverse communities across the county, faith centers. We've had initial reach outs, and we've had actually people reaching out to us asking asking how they could get involved. So hopefully once the binder is the handbook is in a much better way and has progressed a bit, then we can actually recruit more members. I'll pass it off to Wendy to introduce our advisory committee.
Thanks, Mahi. And I know that I quickly saw a comment come across in the chat from Jim Morris talking about an index. That's all part of the overall plan, that things will be indexed so that people will be able to have cross references between what organizations offer and what individual services are. And that's all, we love to get that kind of feedback. It reminds us of the things that we need to do. But the intention is indeed to make this easy for people to use. So one of the things we've also done is developed an advisory committee, because there's no way that we think we know the answers to all of these issues across the county. And we're very grateful for the people who've agreed to serve on this advisory committee. Right now, we're talking to Cheryl Beversdorf. Again, Cheryl, she's on the Commission on Aging. She hosts a radio and TV program on Aging Matters. Brenda Cox, who is a former Commission on Aging member and runs her senior ministry at the Lomax AME Church. Brenda has been running a senior ministry every single Saturday, the last Saturday of the month, for 20 years. 20 years. They just celebrated at Lomax a few weeks ago. The last Saturday, 9 a.m., she does a breakfast. Seniors get together and she's sharing information with her parishioners and colleagues and friends in the neighborhood. So Brenda's program at Lomax is a really perfect example of what we're trying to do with the ambassador program on a much larger scale. So Brenda's, really gratefully has agreed to serve on the advisory committee with us. Helen is on the advisory committee, and as you probably saw from the really high quality transportation information we have in the materials, we plagiarized Helen's transportation handbook, which she worked so hard on. So thank you so much, Helen, for doing that work first. But Helen's on the committee and is going to help guide our work. Rebecca Pearson is at Culpeper Garden. She's a director of resident services. So again, we want to find people who are talking and touching older adults right now in their normal jobs, regular jobs, so that they can share their insights with us as we develop the program. Jean Raday, also in Arlington Neighborhood Village, is another person who is talking and touching to seniors every single day. So we wanted to make sure we had her insight. Connie Sorrentino is a board member for Arlington Neighborhood Village. And what I want to say about Connie is that she is a workhorse. She is the board member that everybody wants to have, because not only does she come up with an idea, but she then executes on it, does the research, does the study, and produces the final document. So we're thrilled that Connie has joined us on the advisory committee, and we know that she's going to help us get the work done. And the last name that you can't quite see because of the team's banner is Rita Wang at Marymount University, Vice President of Research. And again, along with Cheryl, Rita has been a partner in both envisioning and bringing about the ambassador program over the last 2 years. So we're thrilled that she's going to continue to be involved as we actually get the opportunity to execute on the ground. So I know that there are a couple of questions coming up. So let's open up the conversation to questions that we have from folks. I can't see whose hand is up, but I know there's a hand up.
It looks like Steve Cordell's hand is up. Steve?
Hi, I was wondering whether in the organizations providing services, you were going to have profit-making organizations as well as nonprofits. I only saw nonprofits.
Yes, that is one of the questions that we actually consulted our new advisory board on. And we believe that we will be best served by including for-profits. And as we go along, we will come up with some sort of parameters that will help us sort of determine which for-profits to include just as we go along. And we will bounce it off of the advisory board.
Great.
Andrea?
Andrea?
I just wondered if the 55 plus program, would they be listed in each of the different categories, that are represented, where they have services? I assume so. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, I think dealing with the 55 plus program will be interesting. I mean, the 55 plus program puts out almost a 40-page catalog every quarter. We can't include every class in that catalog, but I think, making sure that people understand that there is the program out there, that it has a wide range of programs that they offer on a variety of subjects. We'll have to get that across in the catalog. I don't want to commit right now to exactly how we'll do it, but it absolutely will be an important part. And Andrea, when we get to that portion, we'll be sure to reach out to you as well as to reach out to Jennifer and Jessica on what the best way is to do it. The other thing I want to mention is that this is going to be an iterative process. There is going to be, we could work on this for years, likely, right. And we don't want to do that. So we will produce an initial handbook, and we will learn from, and we will find an initial group of ambassadors, and we will learn from that handbook and initial group of ambassadors, and very quickly behind it, come out with version 2. Version 2 will not be 2 years later, it will be 6 months later, because we're going to figure out, because of people touching it, what works and what doesn't work, what do we need to add, what have we included and is it necessary, whatever the things we learn. And Marymount is going to help us with that assessment. We will be looking for Marymount students and graduate students to help us do that on the ground assessment, either through focus groups with consumers, focus groups with our ambassadors, but it is going to be an ongoing iterative process. It's not going to be a one and done. So I offer that, Andrea, in that I don't want to give a commitment right now to how 55 plus is handled, but we want to handle it in a way that we get as much information out into people's hands as they need to make informed decisions.
I know you will.
I won't be able to come back to this group if I don't.
Let's see, Kate.
Hello, I was just curious about the distribution of the guide. It sounds like, right, the initial plan is for the handbook to be available to the ambassadors, whomever that might be, but is the plan to also make it just broadly available to folks in the community, or where's kind of, what does that distribution channel look like?
I don't know. Go ahead, Wendy. I mean, we are, again, we're iterating this. Initially, I do think we'll put it in the hands of the initial ambassador recruits. And as we get out there and start kicking the tires on the program, it's possible it'll be beneficial to have, to distribute them, say, to Virginia Hospital Center or what have you.
I think, Kate, at some point it'll become a question of cost. Certainly, initially, it's going to the ambassadors. We do have in our minds that year 2, we'll be able to put it up on a website.
Yeah.
So that people can access it on a website and easy. But I know that you're thinking in your mind the incredible source book that you guys and the resource book that the other one that Steve Gurney puts out. I mean, we don't have, and I don't suspect we'll ever have the resources to put out a document like that that's free to the public just for the asking. But things like the source book are going to be included in the physical handbook because there's so much rich information in that. But it is intended to be somewhat of a public document, but it's just unclear how much of that public document will be in paper versus on a website.
That's great. Yeah, I would love to see it, to be efficient with our resources, right? For you and for us, so we can, not duplicate.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, very true.
And again, everybody who's on this call and who's asking questions, our intention is to have a more one-on-one conversation with each of you to make sure that we're fully informed on your program interest and how we incorporate it into this handbook and how the system, makes most sense for all of us.
All right. Let's see, Jessica.
Thank you, Wendy. I'm Jessica with the 55 Plus program. Andrea, thank you always for the advocacy. We always appreciate it. And Wendy, we know that you know our program so well, so we appreciate that too. My question is, with Arlington being so diverse, what plan or what are your thoughts around kind of doing the research about which groups you might be able to go out first, like prioritizing? I'm just interested in how that would come about, and also how you will be, well, I know recruitment of volunteers is always hard, and hopefully you'll have representation of those groups, because that's always the most success we find when we're able to send out staff or volunteers who represent the group, and especially in their language. So I was just thinking if you had any thoughts in place about that, and also always happy to brainstorm with you, because we're always trying to figure it out as well. So, but advocacy for diversity to the population.
Absolutely. I mean, that's key to making this successful. One of the things I hope to do is steal all of your contact lists that you have. In the best of all worlds, I think the county has done a phenomenal job. If we look back on 2 initiatives, one is the complete census count, and the other is the complete vaccination committee. And in both of those county initiatives, they had people, in a wide range of Arlington communities that were participants to make sure that we got the best census count and we got the best coverage for vaccination. So my hope, back of my head, is that I'm going to be able to plagiarize those mailing lists initially and reach out to that same group of people and say, we've got a new program and we'd love to get that same kind of broad representation in Arlington that was reflected in these 2 initiatives. Are you willing to either yourself raise your hand, or is there someone within your community that you think would be passionate about sharing information about older adults? So that's one of our strategies. It's not going to be the only one, but you're absolutely right, Jessica, that challenge of having representation in all of the diverse communities that exist around Arlington is probably going to be the hardest part of our job, but one that we're fully committed to. And anybody who's got ideas on how we can reach into those communities, please do. I mean, we certainly plan to go to things like civic associations and faith institutions and, others that have a wide reach. Michelle is trying to get in front of the Arlington Interfaith Network and do a
Yep.
presentation to them, coming up. So if people know of groups or entities that you think we can reach out to, please share either with Michelle or myself. We'll make sure that the information, that we start collecting it all in a single place so that we can do that outreach when it's time to find ambassadors.
Yep. Okay, let's see, Juan Carlos Velasquez.
Carlos?
Hello.
Carlos, I can't see your picture. There you go.
There he is.
To piggyback on Jessica's question, I think it's more than stealing, Wendy, honestly. It's about being able to be a part of the process in the beginning. And so I would highly recommend that you think carefully about to what extent we have representation, diversity, and inclusion from the very onset, not only in the development of the curriculum, but even in the advisory board or council that you put together. And specifically, you develop now I know it's gonna take money, but down the road, we start thinking about how to secure dollars to make sure that some of these materials, and especially the core instruction, is available in different languages.
Absolutely, Carlos.
Yep.
And, we are very receptive to, if there are folks that people are aware of that would like to minimally at this point join the steering committee, please, again, let us know. We're not making the steering committee a heavy lift. We're not going to ask the steering committee members themselves to do hard work, but we do want to be able to tap into your brains and be able to get your good advice. But, very good points, Carlos.
Yeah, definitely. Erica?
Yes, I hope you can hear me, and I don't know why there's an L in my name, but there is. Well, I just wanted to say how thrilled I am as a member of the age-friendly task force to see this where it is and how far we've come, and to all the folks that Wendy named. It's just a real thrill, and you deserve so much credit. My question is, or actually my thought, was about things that come up that aren't related to a particular program, but are important to reach out, particularly in a diverse community and particularly to low-income members. I'm thinking of the Medicaid renewals, the Medicaid unwinding, and how would something like that be handled?
So I think what we should all keep in mind is that when we do have ambassadors, the ambassadors are not going to be experts, but they're going to know that there are experts that exist. So the most important thing that we can do on a very complicated subject like Medicaid or Medicaid unwinding is to say, if you have a Medicaid question, who's the best person for you to reach out to and talk to? Is that a VICAP counselor? Is it this person? Is it that person? Our ambassadors can't become experts in everything we're going to cover, but they can become the person who knows who you should talk to get that expert answer.
Yeah.
Thank
and
you.
that's what the handbook, Erica, the handbook really is going to have that. For more information, here's where you go. So I'm really thinking the ambassadors are going to understand what different programs and services there exist, but not to be an expert in all of the offerings.
Great. Thank you so much.
Sure. Herschel?
I think you could be more aggressive when you're asking whether the handbook is available. If it's on the web, it's hard for me to believe that you're going to have an ambassador who isn't computer savvy. I mean, they're not really going to be successful if they aren't. So I think your answer should be yes, it's available, and not even think about a printed copy. I'm not sure you need to print it at all.
No, Herschel, all of our ambassadors are going to have a printed copy. The whole point is every ambassador will have a printed copy. And as Michelle said, it'll be a 3-ring binder so that we can correct pages and take them out and put a new page in as information is derived. The question we were responding to in terms of, the website is a future companion piece that would potentially be on a website that would go along with the print document, but that we weren't intending to make a print document available to every citizen. But we would be able to make a website available to every citizen if they wanted to do their own research. ambassadors will absolutely have a print version, and it'll be a print version that we will help them update. We won't
Okay,
even.
I'm going
in
to
a
jump
way,
in
I'm
and
questioning how important the print version is, because
I think we'll, Herschel, I think we'll tackle this at another time. We don't want to get mired in the details right now. I think,
okay.
Herschel, your point is very well taken, and there are probably things that Michelle and Wendy will come back to us, and, you know, perhaps it's a different way of making a printed copy available. But I think your point has been made. I apologize for jumping in and cutting you off a little bit, but I don't want to get mired with too many details because y'all are still on this journey. So if we have one last question, then maybe we can move on.
William has his hand up.
Yeah, so it's a comment. So I just want to say to Wendy and your team that this looks great. Absolutely. Very comprehensive. I think it's going to add value, and yeah, I just think it's awesome. So thank you very much.
Thank you, William.
I would agree. Steve, we're going to hold on to your question until we have the finish of the presentation, and then we'll come back and take more. I apologize. But Wendy and Michelle, did you have more that you wanted to share at this time? Okay, so
Nope.
we are at the end of the presentation.
We are at the end of it. Yep.
Okay, and I would like to just add the accolades. I was beaming here thinking about, you know, how we've discussed this at length, and to see the realization of it is just really quite thrilling. I'm going to ask, if I may, Steve, and then we had Kate and Erica. So Steve?
I think they just didn't take their hands down.
Thank you. I realized I had a second question, or actually not a question, a suggestion. And that is to add socialization to your list of topics. I know that ANV and 55 Plus have a number of socialization kinds of programs. And as the Surgeon General has pointed out, loneliness is an epidemic. And I think socialization needs to be one of your topics.
Thank you. That's a good suggestion. We have health and well-being, and we're finding that it's getting very well populated. So we have been thinking we're going to need to come up. So I think socialization is a very good suggestion, Steve. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any final questions? I didn't mean to cut off the conversation. I just didn't know for sure if we were at the end. Michelle and Wendy, would you kind of summarize by giving us a bit of a timetable of how you think things are going to progress from this point on?
Well, we knew that there was going to be the question of a timetable that we haven't per se locked in, because we're still gathering information. In the best of all worlds, we would like to have something in hand this year. We would like to have a version of a handbook. We would like to have some ambassadors identified and trained and working in their communities. And then building and learning from that with, as I said, iteration 2, which would be very soon behind. So we are hopeful that we will be able to have a physical handbook and to have an initial core of ambassadors recruited this year, but I can't really give you more specific timeframes, but that's our hope. That's going to be, you know, driven by, you know, how well we are able to gather information, send it out to organizations, ask them to review it, and to, you know, not just review it, but to make it better and make sure that we are doing a good job of representing organizations and the services that they offer. Because this is going to be an important document. We are summarizing, you know, every organization can have pages and pages describing their mission and services. We're collapsing that down into, you know, potentially a 1-page or a half a page. So it's going to be really important that the organizations and services feel comfortable with the way they're being represented. And we want to go through as many iterations as necessary to make that happen and to be quality. And then, of course, you know, doing that initial recruitment of ambassadors and putting them out on the street. That's just going to be the initial, clearly what the technology world calls beta. You know, we will learn from that and do a second version that's far better.
Yep. Agreed.
Erica, did you have a question? No. Okay. And I think one of my comments would be to put at the bottom of all your information the date of when the information is made available and when an update might occur, because I think that was one of the questions we had initially, particularly with paper copy. You know, how frequently is this going to be updated? And you can't do it, at least in a paper version, with the constancy that might be necessary as things change. Right. But again, I want to, on behalf of the commission, I just cannot tell you how excited I am about this program. I just think it's wonderful. To see the work you've put in already is just really terrific. And I hope you can find a good name. I was looking at synonyms for adults.
Yeah.
And I come up with one. Come up with an idea of, I don't know how wedded you are to ambassador, but navigator just sounds like what you're doing too. So maybe if you have a contest among commissioners, they can come up with a dandy way of capturing this.
Thanks. That's a great idea. I mean, one of the things Rita recommended on Fridays, we're agonizing over what are the 3 or 4 words that make the name of the program. She says, remember, you have a tagline. So between, both the name of a program and a tagline, we hope to capture. But I agree with you that the word like navigator versus ambassador, at some point when senior ambassador program was picked, it's because other people were calling it that. And then when we started looking at it for Arlington, it's we started picking it apart and saying, senior, we don't use that term, and so on. So this is all very good feedback. We appreciate it.
Yeah, we've been talking with Alexandria, Loudoun, and Fairfax, which have established senior ambassador programs. So it's just the logical name, but we have found that it's not the best term to use nowadays.
Okay. All right. Well, again, thank you so much. This is fantastic. And what I wish Cheryl were here today, but she is not with us, I don't think. And Carlos, your committee has been, fighting, not fighting, but championing this for a long time. And it's just a real thrill to see it move forward. So please carry that back to Cheryl and others. What a force she has been, as are your advisory committee. Really terrific people. Okay. Thank you, Michelle. We look forward to an update anytime you want to provide it.
Okay. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. We're going to move on. And I think the next item on our agenda is the review and approval of the June meeting minutes. Has everyone had a chance to take a look at the minutes? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Who was that?
That was me.
Oh, William. Okay. A second?
Second.
All right. We have a second from Herschel. Any additions or corrections to the minutes as noted, as written? No. Okay. Erica, your hand is still up. Did you have a comment? Okay. All in favor of accepting the June minutes as written, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? All right, the minutes are approved as written. Okay, the chair's report. Well, I think all that I can say is that I've just been very, very thrilled with the progress that everyone has been making. As you may know, we have a couple things to note with the county government, and that is that Libby Garvey has been named as our liaison. And so I think it might be important to kind of bring her up to speed on some of the things we've done. Miss Tarantino, is that how we say her name, has been elected to the county board to fill the unexpired term of Katie Crystal. So until the new election and county board members are sworn in January. So those are the two government related things I might mention. The third is that when I look ahead to those who whose term is about to expire, one of which is Delegate Alfonso Lopez. And I have reached out to him and asked him to share his advice on who he thinks might be a great candidate for his successor. And so we're setting up a phone call, and we'll reach out to him, and we'll come back hopefully by the September meeting with a recommendation that we can move forward. And Helen and Rachel will guide us on exactly how we move forward with that person. But I think he sounded honored that he had this opportunity, and also willing to help us move forward. So I'm grateful for that. We talked a bit during the executive committee meeting about what type of elected official, since the bylaws just say elected. And I think there was some thought about local government versus state government, but our tendency has been toward working with a state government official to help us bring that viewpoint to the commission. Since so many decisions are made in Richmond that have an impact on our community. So we're going to kind of lead with that and see what Delegate Lopez has to say. And again, I would say yay to Andrea. Good for you. That is wonderful. The Volunteer Arlington folks work very hard on this recognition, and it's wonderful that you have received it. Congratulations. Are there any questions of me before we move into staff reports? No. Okay. The other thing I would mention is that our September meeting will be my last meeting to chair. And I'm delighted that William is going to be the next chair of the Commission on Aging, and his vice chair will be Kathy Cameron. So we're very thrilled about that. William, it will not be with us in September, so you're kind of stuck with me one last time. But we will be doing a real brainstorming session on how we move forward with our next iteration of Age Friendly. So it's the opportunity to look at whether or not committees need to remain standalone, combined, what programs need to be included, what are we missing? And I think there are some areas of need that have come up, particularly since the first of our plans was adopted. So that's what we'll be doing in the September meeting as a little bit of a preview. All right, if there are no questions of me, I'm going to turn it over to Helen and Rachel.
All right, good morning, everyone. I think on a technicality regarding the next chair and vice chair, I think we can consider Linda's announcement an official nomination of William to be chair and Kathy Cameron to be vice chair, and we will officially vote on that in September, and then they will take the realm in October. I think that's the official course of action. So
thank you,
anyway, so thank you, William and Kathy, for your willingness to put your names forward, and we will officially vote on that in September. So this morning, I'd like to take my allocated time to talk a little bit about the area plan document that I have been working on over the last couple months. It is due to the state today, so I want to give you all just a quick update, let you ask any questions before I push the send button to send it on its way. So just really quick, we had allocated to us state and federal funds in the total amount of about $970,000. And the projected carryover that we have is close to $595,000 for a total of $1,565,000 that I'm budgeting in state and federal funds. There are also, some local funds that go into some of those programs as well. But what I focus on for the area plan is specifically the state and federal funds that are allocated to us. So to give you an overview of what has been budgeted for each of the main programs, for Homemaker, we're looking at about $175,000 funds and have $75,000 in those funds. We all know that doesn't cover all of it, but there are other funds that go into that program. Home delivered meals, I'm budgeting right now $480,000. We've talked a little bit about this. The forecasts show us being as high as $515,000 on this program next year. So we'll be watching that very closely. And then with the congregate meal program, which includes the social 60 plus cafes, as well as the adult day program, we're budgeting about $108,000 between those two programs. Moving on to transportation, I have budgeted about $63,000, legal services $22,000, and money management $20,000. And then we also allocate some of those funds for personnel costs. Okay. So new things that we're looking to add in FY 2024. So we have our standard programs, our Meals on Wheels, our community living program, the congregate meal programs, etc. A couple of the things that I'm going to be looking to implement in 2024 is a congregate meal program in a local restaurant. So one of the ideas that we have, Kitchen for Purpose, that used to be La Cocina, is very interested in partnering with us on this little effort, right? So we would set a menu with them, and once or twice a week, allow older adults to go in, choose off that menu, sit in an actual restaurant and have their meals. This is a program that has been implemented in other jurisdictions across the country. We hear it's very successful, and it attracts a different group of older adults that may not be interested in going into a senior center or a social 60 plus cafe, for example. They're really more interested in, but might be interested in going into the community, into an actual restaurant. So we're going to be looking to do a little pilot program with them. Another pilot program that I'd like to look into this year is we get people who call in for the Meals on Wheels program, but then say because of the types of meals that are delivered, it's not appropriate for whatever chronic disease that they have, be it renal disease or high blood pressure or heart disease. And so I'd like to pilot a small program potentially to be able to meet the needs of those clients who really would benefit from a home delivered meal, but they're not willing to accept the current offering because it's not something that's appropriate for their dietary needs. And then, of course, our favorite topic of transportation programs. I'm looking also at, we know that our current senior loop contract is going to end at the end of May. And so, wanting to look at, do we duplicate that program as is, or are there ways that we can add some flexibility into the program to make it more widely available in the community, or are there other things that we can do? So those are sort of three main areas that I'm looking at as injecting something new into what we do typically. And so just wanted to share one other thing with you. I'm going to share my screen really quick. One of the things that they ask us to do is to look at our demographics, right? So what was the population in 2019? And then how are we planning to take our dollars and serve the most in need part of our population? And so I just wanted to share that screen capture with you just really quick so you can get an idea of what that looks like. So can everyone see that okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So this first column over here that says 2019 ACS, this is the total population and then broken down into the demographic categories, right? So race and ethnicity, as well as our low income minority and individuals that live alone. And so when we look at the services that we're going to be offering, knowing that we should be targeting people with the greatest economic or social need, how are we planning to sort of break apart in our programs, the populations that we serve? So, I took a look at this. I've looked at what we have historically served, the percentages of individuals in the programs typically. And so just made some projections around there. So looking at roughly 225 people in our homemaker program, 275 in transportation. And these would be people that are funded strictly by the Older Americans Act. So that might look a little low for homemaker. It's only because it's just that segment of the population. Okay. Thinking that we're probably going to be close to 2,000 people in our information and assistance through our ADRC, 300 in our congregate meals, 275 in the home delivered meals, targeting 50 at least in our disease prevention, and then in our caregiver program, looking to touch at least 100 caregivers. Okay, any questions for me on that? I see William's got his hand up.
Oh, that must be just a leftover. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Okay, no worries. Are there any questions for me on that?
Helen, it's Wendy. I don't have a question, but I'd love a copy of that sheet of paper. Okay. It's got some really rich information on it that can help us when we're applying for grants, for example, to talk about what the demographics are of our community, 65 and older. And that would be a great piece of paper that I can just use for some of our analysis.
Okay.
Thanks.
Helen, I did have a question after Linda. So.
Okay, Linda.
Okay. My question is, could you define homemaker? And the second question is the category of living alone. Is that both in multifamily and single family?
So the living alone is in multifamily and single family residences, yes. So it's individuals who have identified that they live by themselves. And homemaker is our community living program. So it's the in-home services that we provide to individuals to help them, light housekeeping, maybe some laundry service, a little bit of personal care potentially, right? So, but that service, our community living program.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Helen, great idea about the congregate meal pilot at the restaurant. I was wondering, I haven't heard of that restaurant. Where is that approximately? And
so they are on the corner of, pretty close to the corner, where, well, Gilliam Place is the building that they're in the ground floor of. So I think their address
is that Roslyn or Columbia Pike, or where is it?
It's Columbia Pike. And it's,
okay.
I think it's Glebe Road, right? And is it Glebe Road and Columbia Pike near that intersection?
Yeah,
okay.
It's by the Wendy's there.
Okay, I know exactly where it is. Okay, well, great. And cost-wise, is it pretty much the same as the current meals, or is it going to be more? Any thoughts?
So we would hope to keep it close to the cost of the current meals, but that is a detail that we would have to work out as we look into this pilot.
Great innovation. Thank you.
Jim?
Yeah, Helen, I'd like to hear more about your thoughts on expanding the Senior Loops program. I think there's plenty of expansion that would be popular out there. It's one of the more popular opportunities that we hear about in our outreach.
Yeah, so I don't have any specific details yet, Jim, but, a couple ideas of things that, that have occurred to me. So first of all, any of you who have been over at Mosaic area, if you have seen the autonomous shuttle that goes between the Metro and the Mosaic area, right? Mm-hmm. Is that something that we could look at for, especially like the Carlin that is so close to Harris Teeter and the Target there in Ballston, right? If we just had this little autonomous shuttle that kind of ran around the block, would that be something that we could look at? Also in looking at, is the loop model the right model, or do we need to look at more kind of on demand, right? So, could we implement maybe some sort of a debit card or something like that people could use to say, I need to go to the bank on Tuesday, right? I can go when I need to go and not wait necessarily for the next loop that may come around in another week, right? So those are just a couple ideas that I'm mulling over. There's definitely going to be some research into what other communities are doing as well. But we're looking at it and making sure that what we're considering will make sense for our community.
Yeah, well, in our outreach, William and I have asked questions about various things, but we perhaps should have asked questions about how people would prefer expanding this service. I know most people who don't have it would like to have it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, and certainly, you know, we'll be working with you, Jim and William, and your transportation committee, and you know, and making it part of the community engagement forum for next year as well.
Great, thank you.
Great, that's terrific. Any other questions of Helen? Helen, you've given us a lot of food for thought, as you can tell, and look forward to working with you on these items. I just think it's a great way to expand and also pay attention to those many older adults who have food related concerns as they age and their health is compromised and need different kinds of meals. So any other questions here before we move on to Rachel? Helen, is that complete your report?
So can I just offer two more quick things? So first of all, we had our first pop-up market last week out at Woodland Hill, and had about 35 people, I think, come. And so it was a little warm, but we were in the shade, and you know, just everybody super excited to be coming down. Our farmers market program is kicking along. I think we've distributed well over 600 coupon books so far. And poor Miss Alma is still buried in applications. We have 1,500 books to distribute this year. So if we haven't distributed them all by July 31st, which is when we said we were cutting off applications, we are able to accept applications through early September. And so we will keep it open as long as we have books. And so if any of you in your encounters come across, you know, low income older adults, ask them if they've signed up for Senior Farmers Market yet. And if they haven't, send them our way. And that's all I got. Thanks, Linda.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think that's just a wonderful thing. Rachel, do you have anything you wanted to share with us?
Yes. Good morning, everyone, and happy July and happy summer. It's good to see you all virtually. And just again, thank you, Wendy, Michelle, Mahi, for that presentation on the Ambassador Program. Thank you to Helen for her work on the area plan. As she mentioned, this is the 4-year area plan, so this is kind of our big one. And there's a lot of time that goes into that, and many individuals who also contribute to it as well. So Helen did a lot of meetings with different staff, different programs, different departments. Jim Baker is such a resource as well with helping with the finances of state, local, federal, all of that, and how that kind of feeds into the area plan. And then each of you, the feedback that we receive at the community engagement forum sessions, at meetings like this one, at listening sessions in the community, all of that helps to shape the area plan. And so just want to thank you all for your help and hard work in making it come to fruition. Wendy, I think your comment, we used to have a chart that actually broke down the federal, state, local funding and who was served. And that's something we can look at repopulating once the plan is in and sharing with everybody. So thank you for that. Today is very exciting. We had a new Adult Protective Services person start today. She came by my office, and so I popped out just to say hi for a moment. But our Adult Protective Services team is fully staffed again at 4. And just thank you all for your advocacy and advocating for that additional position. We are working at year-end closeout of the county fiscal year and capturing those numbers. But as of June, Adult Protective Services had 712 reports, which is record. That doesn't include July. And we were meeting with our colleagues in Fairfax last week, and for having almost quadruple the size of our team, they have about 1,200 reports. So that team has been extremely busy, and under the leadership of Joanne Leach, continuing to do the great work and meeting the needs of older adults experiencing abuse, neglect, and exploitation. Our Arlington Adult Day program is under partnering with behavioral health and the Clarendon House program at looking at the need for expanding adult day programs throughout the county. And we've been working with a consultant, and we'll hopefully have a final report in the next week or so. Once we have a chance to review it and share it with leadership, we'll be sure to share it, the recommendations more broadly. And Erica, it's a very small world because Dari Pogash has been kind of the lead on this, and like everyone speaks so highly of you, but we've been really thrilled with the initial results, and we'll be sure to share those recommendations about just the growing need for adult day programs in the county. Currently, our Arlington Adult Day program has an interest list of over 40 individuals. And so that's one metric that speaks to the need. One very exciting piece of information to share that is sort of hot off the presses, but Helen and I were in a meeting last week with the county communications office, and they'll be scheduling a meeting with the commission and advisory group chairs. But we no longer have to record every single committee meeting. The county attorney's office really looked at the regs, and that was more a local regulation and not speaking to the state and FOIA. So moving forward, we will still record the full Commission on Aging meetings, but for the committees, there's not kind of that stress and anxiety of recording the meetings. It is now optional. It is not mandatory. So we'll discuss this more in the executive committee meetings and with the chairs, but just a hot off the presses type of thing that we recently learned. So that is on the record because we're recording this meeting. One other update, our Aging and Disability Resource Center under Dr. Shandia Johnson continues to experience a high volume of individuals, older adults experiencing homelessness, facing evictions, and there really is just a need to do more for our older adults. We had an example last week of someone who was evicted and called at, the sheriff was coming at 4 o'clock. There were some challenges with mobility issues. The shelter was looking at, is this person appropriate? And so there is an opportunity to comment through the draft strategic plan to prevent and end homelessness. Helen included this in her the read ahead packet. I'll also put the link in the chat. But we need help raising and elevating the issue of older adults and the need for specialized attention and supportive services to our older adults experiencing homelessness, those who are not appropriate for shelter, but just to name the issue. And so there is an opportunity through the strategic plan. Currently in the strategic plan, there is one mention of kind of aging and seniors, and it's looking at more housing through rapid rehousing, through the rapid rehousing and permanent supportive housing for older adults, which is vital, but it doesn't speak to the needs in the way that some of the other groups are really getting specialized attention. So and then just two other updates that I have. The Arlington County Fair is coming. I know this is everyone's favorite event of the year, but the county fair will be August 16th through the 20th, and we'll be staffing a table August 18th through the 20th. Michelle Thomas, who helps to coordinate our outreach for our division, will probably be sending an email out. She shared one internally with staff, but if anyone is interested, you love the fair, you want to get your funnel cake and spend some hours trying to recruit for the commission or share information about resources and services, you can let Michelle or me or Helen know, and then be sure to stop by the fair if you are in town. And just the last thing that I wanted to share is we are working closely with our benefits office. With the lifting of the public health emergency, one of the impacts that we're seeing is the continuity of Medicaid. So during the pandemic, individuals who qualified for Medicaid did not have renewals. That started up again this year. And we learned just last week that older adults are failing to complete their Medicaid renewals on time at a higher percentage than other demographics, other groups. So we're working with our benefits office, specifically with Pat Rivers, and Helen mentioned the pop-up farmers markets. We're looking at having some of their staff join us at pop-up farmers markets, at some of our outreach events at the independent living residences. We're often there when AFAC is there for their food distribution. And then Michelle, who, if you are on, Michelle, I want to give an update. Michelle is looking at partnering with Pat and her team and some of the VICAP outreach. And I'll put information in the chat, and we can also share of what you can do to help get the message out. Michelle?
Hi, testing 1, 2, 3. Are you able to hear me okay?
We are, yes.
Oh, super, super, yes. Thank you so much, Rachel. Yes, in response to the public health emergency, VICAP is partnering with the Economic Independence Division to help Medicaid beneficiaries reapply for their benefits. 2 days have been scheduled already where our teams are going to collaborate and conduct the pop-up sites at Culpeper Garden to help them remain insured. Many of you know that a lot of our clients that we specifically work with in the VICAP office are dual eligible, which means they have Medicare and Medicaid. And so a lot of the clients we work with are enrolled in the Medicare savings programs, which is an expansion of having Medicaid. And so we're going to be working with our partners in the community. I see Charlie Sabatino here, who's on the VICAP team as well. He signed up to assist along with other VICAP volunteers. And I do want to give a special shout out to Rebecca Pearson from Culpeper Gardens. I see her here. She and I have been talking by phone and email more specifically, and she has been a great champion and advocate. So thank you, Rebecca, in helping us to ensure the success of this event. So we'll be going to Culpeper Gardens to have a site and be available to help individuals renew their Medicaid benefits, in addition to sharing some other resources. And then we're looking at additional housing sites to offer the same level of support to ensure people do not lose their healthcare coverage. Thank you again.
Thanks so much, Michelle. And then just lastly, Maimuna was not able to be here today, but we hope to have an announcement very soon about the RAFT director. As you all know, Alice Straker retired in June, and we are in the final process of recruitment for the RAFT director. And so Maimuna will hopefully have an update that we'll be sure to share with you all very soon. But that's all we have for staff updates. Any questions?
Okay, all right. I see no questions, but I had one comment. I did go online. It's very easy to comment on the draft strategic plan for homelessness services. And one of the things that is pretty obvious right at the beginning is that there is no age breakdown in the data that they've collected. And I think that would be extremely helpful. And that was one of my comments too, is that how, you know, the concern about equity, diversity, and inclusion is pretty significant, but they don't use age as one of the criteria in helping to understand who their population is. So that is my comment, and I hope others will choose to reflect on that as well. Okay. If there are no questions, we're going to shuffle on and move. Audrey is not here to provide a report on housing and supportive services. Do we have any other report on her behalf? I know that she's following several things concerning Sunrise, and hopefully arm twisting them to consider having several of their units or beds committed to affordability. We don't currently have a requirement that makes that happen, But since Alexandria has been successful, we want to make sure that we're using that same leverage here in Arlington and their new construction. And I know she's following some other things, but I don't have any other details. Does anyone have any other housing related comments to share? Okay. Legislative, Herschel. Herschel, if you are, you're on mute if you're covering something. You're on mute, Herschel.
Okay, got it. Let's see, I had some notes. The NVAN meeting, that'll be kind of the final wording for the platform for 2024 is tomorrow morning. Arlington is chairing the September meeting, and I guess William will be chairing that. We had a kind of a separate group, or an ad hoc group, although I guess every NVAN committee is an ad hoc committee, but to contact potential new delegates and senators. And William and I and Joan are involved in that. And in fact, William has taken a major part in that. He as I mentioned last week at the executive committee, William seems to volunteer for everything and then do what he said he would do, including preparing scripts and contacting people in Loudoun County, candidates in Loudoun County when no one else would step forward. I guess Arlington and Alexandria are much more aggressive or feel freer to contact legislators than some of the other counties in NVAN, who I think may have some restrictive rules on what at least commission members can do. That's going forward, and we're going to, Joan and I are going to be talking to Adele about NVAN and about the NVAN breakfast and what NVAN platform in a couple weeks. We have something scheduled. Let's see.
Can you forward so that Helen can include the information on registering for the NVAN breakfast? And also, I think Arlington is responsible for the September program, which Helen and Rachel have been working on. If they want to chip in and let folks know what that online meeting might look like.
Yes. So we are looking at having, we reached out to somebody from the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments, Hillary Chapman, who was critical in developing the point in time study for the region about homelessness and the impact on the region, the increase, where they actually do break it down by age. And then if she's not available, Cynthia, we're going to reach out to Danielle Aragonia with AARP. AARP recently created a publication about different housing options or making room housing for a changing America. And so one of those two speakers, but we're looking at spotlighting homelessness for the September meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, the registration for the breakfast, I think has not gone out. If I'm I don't think. And I am on the ANVAN Breakfast Committee, and as I said at the executive committee, if someone else who's going to be on the commission would like to participate instead of me, otherwise I will continue on that committee for, I guess, for next year, if no one else wants to replace me. Although I'm not a big contributor to the meetings, but that is on planning the breakfast. I think that's it. I will be going off as chairman, and I had promised Anthony that I would arrange meetings with some of the delegates and senators, and I have talked to Patrick and Barbara Favola, and both of them said they'd be happy to meet. So I will arrange meetings for Anthony with them, and maybe he can, if he's available, he can come to the meeting with Adele McClure, although the meeting has a specific purpose of telling her about ANVAN and the ANVAN breakfast and so forth. And Patrick Hope did send out an email to all the, at least all the Democratic candidates for delegate and senator, or who would be new to the legislature, telling them about ANVAN as kind of an introductory thing. So that was helpful. I don't think I have anything else.
Herschel, if you don't have anyone else to be on your meeting with Adele, I'd be happy to join you on that one.
Well, Joan and I are, and we don't really need anybody else. I just thought it would be an opportunity for Anthony to meet her if he's available. But yeah, Joan and I will be more than, I guess, two. Maybe they don't even need both of us. But anyway, Adele was happy to meet with us. And both Joan and I have met her before.
Okay, great.
Herschel, right. I am open. Please send me the information. That's the first time I'm hearing about it. So, please let me know so I can get it on my calendar. And I do look forward to getting the meetings prior to you, jumping off, because I want to make sure it's a smooth transition and that I can effectively manage, the big void that you're going to be leaving, and so I want to make sure I can execute properly. So getting those introductions prior, I think would be very helpful to making the transition smooth.
Okay, there is one other, I think I realize I'll talk separately to Helen, that I was supposed to check about the date of the forum. Helen, what we had talked about a particular date.
Yeah, I don't think that we finalized a date, Herschel. So let's you and I connect outside of this meeting and just nail down what date we're going to target. Okay, I will do that. I kind of dropped that. I guess I'm a short timer, I guess, and so anyway. That's
Herschel,
it.
we wouldn't say that about you. We certainly wouldn't say that about you. Any other questions or comments for Herschel? And yes, Herschel does, his second term will complete at the end of September. So we look forward to seeing you at the September meeting, Herschel, so we can thank you for all that you've done for us. And hopefully we're working on making sure at least one other commissioner is active on the committee to fill the void and provide some backup and co-working relationship with Anthony. Moving on to long-term residences, do we have any report on the long-term care committee? I know they met and I was not available to meet, and I don't recall much else. Rachel, did you have anything there?
Yes. So the long-term care committee met last week. One of the updates is that Carl Varner will be the new ombudsman for Arlington. We talked a little bit about Medicaid renewals, and just again, thanks to Kate Kramer for bringing that up, but working on more outreach and making sure that Medicaid renewals occur, and that we're also working with the long-term care communities because we are seeing some gaps in coverage with that. Claire mentioned the great resource about the super senior taxi. So just another resource for half price cab coupons. And then we talked about maybe having Virginia Hospital Center as a speaker for one of the upcoming meetings, specifically to talk about the protocol for both admissions and discharges. And there was a discussion of a sort of specific case, but looking at maybe having VHC as a future speaker, and then just staying on top of the Sunrise development and the transition and messaging of what that is going to be for to the current residents and caregivers. But since that's not been approved by the county board or even completed the planning commission, just thinking proactively of staying on top of that for the development there. There will be no meeting in August, and the next meeting will take place in September. And I think Charlie gave a great suggestion, which I'm forgetting what it is, but I believe Maimuna is following up with Charlie's suggestion for a speaker at the September meeting. And Kate, I see your hand is up. If I missed anything, please add it.
In the Rapid SOS program that the Emergency Communication Center is launching, because that's a really good source for the senior community as well as the intellectual disability community. So it's there's a QR code that will go up on the website that people can either scan or someone can help them scan, and it'll link them to a health profile. So when their cell phone calls 911, we can be pre-alerted to, what kind of medical conditions they have, who their next of kin is, who maybe would be their emergency contact, allergies, any kind of pertinent medical information that you might not be able to give depending on what your medical emergency is. And it's a really great resource. And we're hoping that a lot of the community centers or a lot of community members will engage in this process. So that'll help kind of streamline their healthcare and help streamline our ability to serve them correctly. So I'll put if you have the handout, Rachel, that'd be great to put in the chat. But it would be great for the Arlington Neighborhood Villages resource booklet as well.
Yeah. No, thank you so much, Kate. And I actually don't have that from Angelina yet, but I did include this as part of some of the Marcus Alert efforts. And I don't think it's on the website yet, but they are planning to post it on the website. So I'll follow up with Angelina, and then we'll share the information about SOS with everyone as part of the follow-up to this meeting. But thank you, Kate. Yeah, very important update. Charlie?
Thank you, Rachel, for that summary. With respect to the suggestion for a future speaker, we hope to have at the September meeting the chair of the Moving Forward Coalition speak, and everyone will be invited who was interested in that. The Moving Forward Coalition was created after the National Academy of Sciences came out with their nursing home quality report in April of 2022, which was really the first major report that they've done since 1986, I think. And there were 7 major recommendations from that report. And the Moving Forward Coalition was created with funding from the John A. Hartford Foundation to bring national leaders together to work on implementing those 7 recommendations. I've chaired one of the work groups in that coalition, And the first year of the work was to create action plans. And the action plans upon these recommendations will be publicly published on July 18th, it's coming right up, on their webpage, which is movingforwardcoalition.org. So if you're interested, take a look at that. Very comprehensive set of action plans. And the next year of the coalition's grant work will be on implementing those action plans. And the chair is Alice Bonner of the coalition, and she agreed to speak at our next long-term care residences committee.
Great. Excellent. I look forward to that. Thank you. Any other questions regarding long-term care? I had one question for you, Charlie, and it's just a quick aside, is are any organizations like Age involved in this, in the Moving Forward Coalition?
Yes, Leading Age has a member of the steering committee is actually from Leading Age. The coalition has a national steering committee, and then it had 7 committees with chairs, and then a couple of different work groups. So there's several dozen people of all professional backgrounds and both industry and nonprofit. It's pretty representative.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I look forward to that presentation, and it'll be on our calendar for September for others who want to listen in on that day. I believe all of the long-term care residences programs are virtual because we're not an official committee. So it makes it easier on everyone. Link, and I should mention here that Link has been asked to have a 6-month extension on his term because he's working with the group on issues related to scamming, and he felt that that project really needed a little bit more time to complete. So Link, I will turn the discussion next over to you with PAIE.
I'm going to shorten that in my comments now. The Positive Aging Committee. We've had a very engaging year with partnership with Marymount University, with Andrea's walking school bus, and now getting involved in scams. I'm going to be posting a video for all of you to look at. It's probably 20 minutes, but it's an incredibly inspiring testimony of a person who has been scammed. And by the way, it's something that any one of you could have been touched with. It's kind of a forerunner of the kinds of things that we're going to be working on scam and elder abuse prevention. Andrea has been recognized throughout the county for the walking school bus work. Andrea, give us an update.
Well, I have to say that the Volunteer Arlington Ceremony Awards certainly raised interest. We got 2 new drivers just there on the night of the award, plus our new sheriff wants to go and take a walk with us, one of our routes to school. We are looking for funding, for the 23-24 year. There was no question that the ACF grant was absolutely critical in keeping the walking school bus alive. And we want to keep that going. Let's see. We now have Kevin Treacle on board with us, who is with Arlington Public Schools. Well, everyone's met Kevin. He went and addressed the commission. And so anyway, now having him focused on the school bus, I really look forward to expanding. What we're hoping for is maybe 5 new schools in this coming year. Anyway, so that's my report. And if you guys have any thoughts about funding sources, let me know.
There's an object lesson in what Andrea just talked about. She kind of on her own brought in several people from the school system and others to help incubate and accomplish. Shows what determination and skill can do. Thank you, Andrea.
Link.
Absolutely. Link, Charlie, you have your hand up. Did you have a question? No. Okay. Any questions for Link or Andrea? I just
This
must
is
say,
Carlos.
Hello?
Yeah, this is Carlos. I have a question that I put in the chat.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead and just say it out loud?
Sure. I'm just wondering, and Andrea and I have been exchanging emails, and this may be a question more for Rachel and Helen. Are there restrictions on using platforms like GoFundMe to support like the ambassador program or the walking school bus?
Good question.
Well, I mean, I think that would really be more of a question for like the ambassador program, something that Arlington Neighborhood Village would consider. And then with the walking school bus, the partnership with the Alliance. And Wendy, you can speak more to Neighborhood Village, but I think, you know, that's the benefit of working with community partners. There's not the same level of restrictions that there would be with local government.
Yeah, so it's an interesting question, Carlos. We haven't pursued GoFundMe. We can look into it. I suspect that part of success there is being able to get your message out to get people to know you have a GoFundMe campaign and then, want to click in and fund it. So we'd have to think about that, but it's a good question.
Great, thank you.
I think it's a great idea. It's almost like the Wikipedia that asks you to chip in a couple dollars here and there for what a resource that is every day for us. Okay. Any other questions or comments before we move on? All right. The next one, Carlos, is you, public information.
Thank you so much. I apologize that for some reason I think my avatar took over my camera and I can't be back on the camera. And I say that with some humor, but AI is really shifting our world very rapidly. And I recently saw a play about this older woman who was given an AI robot. And it's a fascinating narrative and one that's going to really impact all of us down the road. So we can find humor in what the avatar might have done to my camera, but it's a reality, a new reality. And I had already mentioned this about, yeah, I'll be right back. And that we are hosting a meeting to recognize the transitions that are happening. So I sent the invitation out. So hopefully you'll get it in a few minutes and spread the word out, because that's really important to have a presence there to thank everyone who's contributed. And that's all I really have in terms of an update.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for doing the effort to recognize all the work that Cheryl and others have done, and we really appreciate you doing this. Okay. Any questions for Carlos before we move on? All right. Transportation. Jim, I'm so sorry that you're always last. Usually we change it up a little bit, but I haven't been good at doing that lately. So thank you for your patience.
That's okay. That's okay. Better to be last than not at all. Okay. First of all, I guess I would ask Helen to put our quarterly on for the 12th of September at 2 p.m. You wouldn't mind scheduling that. We're going to talk about several things. Amongst them, we'll talk about the results of our outreach programs, and the results of a review or critique on 4 different county plans or reviews. Amongst those plans, and I have to admit that I've been trying to figure out really how to brief you on my reviews of the plans of the city, of the county, but that turns out to be a big package. And I think what I'm going to do is to submit written reports on them with just a quick summary. But the plans and strategies are the transit strategic plan, which is completed. I attended the update on the 21st of June, actually, and have finished looking over that plan. It's a great strategy. I'll go into a little bit of detail after I finish here on what it entails. The plan for Langston Boulevard, the update was supposed to be held last week, but it was postponed until the 20th. I'll be at that. That's a huge undertaking. I think there's some really good things coming out of the Langston plan, and I will be reporting on that. And the South George Mason Drive multimodal study is also under review, and I don't have any comments on that yet. And finally, there will be an annual transit capital tour looking at all the infrastructure for transit in the county on the 25th of July, and I will be on that bus. The Transportation Commission, Joan is not here, but let me just talk about a few things. The first is the Complete Streets projects that have been funded or have been accepted for funding. The 14th Street North, South Irving Street, and 8th Road South are all part of those. And you remember that complete streets means not just vehicles, but every possible conveyance type will be considered in that for optimization. The food study, which is a decision that is pending in the county board to extend the amount of outdoor dining that has been agreed for only for the period of the pandemic. They're talking about expanding that. I was really pleased to see that the Transportation Commission has asked them to put off their decision in view of the fact that they have found a number of sidewalk obstructions by tables that bring them down below 6 feet. We have also made that comment. That's a big problem for older adults, of course. So that's a good thing. And lastly, there is a funding for a multimodal connection now to the DCA airport through Shirlington and Crystal City. They're not going to use a direct ART conveyance there, but they'll go through those two multimodal stations. Just a couple of comments on the transit study. The transit strategy plan is a 10-year effort to improve mainly ART. And the three most common improvements that I picked out of the strategic plan are higher frequency service over longer periods of the day and more service during off-peak hours like weekends. that's really good. They concentrated on 4 areas: Crystal City and Pentagon City, North Arlington, Columbia Pike, Shirlington Transit Station. A lot of good stuff coming out of that. For example, on Crystal City, weekday hours are going to be expanded about 27%, Saturday hours by 64%, and Sunday hours by 94%. That's all good stuff. And it's in particular things we hear about when we talk to older adults. So I guess that's about it.
Thank you. Any questions for Jim? Jim, that's wonderful, that expansion in service, because I always wonder if the ART buses are a little underutilized and the routes could serve the older adult community. And it sounds like they're looking at that. So that's really great. Any questions for Jim before we move on?
Yeah, I might also add that one of the things that they're looking at are reconfiguring the bus stops or the bus routes, excuse me. And they've done that in a couple of areas, which I think is going to improve things. Andrea?
Do you know if they're expanding the route to Longbridge Pool?
Yes, they are.
Super.
Yes, they are.
Thank you.
You bet.
Everybody in South Arlington thanks you.
You bet. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Jim. Okay, now it's time for liaison reports. Cynthia, thank you so much for being here. And again, if I may say how beautiful and wonderful the age-friendly 5-year report was. Thank you to all the chairs who provided input, but also Cynthia, thank you for pulling that together. I shared it with some of my friends just because it just is a wonderful, wonderful piece of work. And I kind of look forward to what happens next. Since September is one of the meetings where we're going to have kind of a beginning of that discussion, do you want to, as part of your comment today, would you set the table for that a little bit, Cynthia?
Sure. As you know, it seems that AARP was quite enthusiastic about the report, so that's a good sign also. But this is a recurring cycle. It's a strategic planning cycle, the way the age-friendly works. So we completed our first 5-year cycle, and that means it's time to gear up for the next 5 years. I assume that the committee chairs have already been talking with their committees about what kinds of things might need to change. Do they want to refocus? Did some things turn out not to be practical? And the kinds of revisions that would take place for a plan 2023 through 28. But also this is a great time for the commission to discuss, have we structured correctly? Have new things arisen that we need to make sure? The long-term care committee was created in the middle of this cycle, and obviously there needs to be a plan related to that as we continue. Do we want to combine some things or break off some things, or what are the ways to focus? So it's great timing for that. The committee, the task force, the age-friendly task force normally meets every other month, but we're taking August off also because everybody else is. So we will be meeting in September. And I thought I would schedule a meeting earlier in September before the commission meeting so we can talk about how we are prepared to support the commission with whatever comes out of that discussion. Right now, what we do is we have a liaison to each of the committees. Sometimes it's one of the co-chairs, sometimes it's a member of the committee, but we need someone who is really working with that committee who can just make sure they're aware of what the process demands. They do not obviously drive the committee, but they're there to work with them. So as we were working on the report, they went back to the chair and worked with them on what should we highlight from your domain. So that's what we're thinking we will do, is we will have that discussion, figure out how we want to continue to support the committees, make sure we still have someone representing everyone on it, and anything else that comes up that people have observed in this 5-year cycle that we need to make sure to be aware of in the future. We just want to make sure we have continuity, but we're also refreshing the process. But it will be very similar to designing the first 5-year plan. I think we'll have another one of those tables that says here is the here's the goal, here's the objective, here's what we see as the time markers along the way. So it keeps the committees kind of nose to the grindstone in terms of making sure things continue to play out. Does that make sense? If anyone who would like to sit in on that meeting, you're very welcome to. I'll be scheduling it probably tomorrow. I'll send out a message to people to see when they're able to do it.
Can I just add?
Go ahead.
Oh,
yes.
I just wanted to add, because Cynthia was not able to make the previous meeting, but because of her leadership, Arlington County remains a member in good standing of the AARP network of age-friendly states and communities. We've successfully completed a cycle of improvement recognized for age-friendly leadership, achievements, and continuing commitment toward being a livable community for people of all ages. And so just a big shout out to Cynthia and the age-friendly team and task force for helping Arlington to be more livable and age-friendly for all. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. I'm glad to see you. The cycle is we have this year now to refresh the plan and put out the new 5-year plan, and we would send that to AARP, but I don't believe it's quite the same approval, big approval process, because we are now counted as an age-friendly community. So
great.
Any questions or?
That is really wonderful. Thank you so much. And again, I'm very proud to be part of this process, and I think all the commissioners share in that. So thank you so much for all you do. Any other questions for Cynthia? Okay.
I think this really helped the commission focus its work in a way. It just made it so much more concrete. So I hope that it continues to be useful that way.
And I think the first plan is also a bit of a learning curve for all of us of what you can choose to focus on and expect not just to have those inputs, but also have some results to share. Will your meeting in September be virtual or in person?
Virtual. We discovered we are allowed to be virtual all the time, and that is the preference of the committee.
Great. I'll hope I can make that meeting. All right, moving on to the Alliance 55 Plus. Andrea.
55 Plus is posted opening for Senior Center Director at Arlington Mill. And if you guys know of anybody, please go ahead and spread the word. They do need a new Senior Center Director there. I don't know if you had realized that there was a new registration website, that was launched in May. But if not, one of the features of it has a wish list, which means that you can start planning for ahead for classes and programs that you might want to register for. And then notable is that the Alliance, as far as their internet access for seniors program, in total has graduated 60 seniors who has attended its twice a week, 6-week computer course. I just think that is just absolutely grand. And of course, and the Alliance has been such a partner with the Walking School Bus and hosting our website. So that's all I have to report.
Great. And the seniors who have completed that internet access, do they end up with a computer?
Sometimes there's not. It depends on in terms as far as their income level.
Okay, thank you. I think it's a great opportunity for those who do not have a laptop. I know it's being used in some of the affordable communities, so that's terrific. Any questions, Andrea, before we move on? Okay, Link, do you have any Alexandria Commission on Aging update?
Just kind of a sidebar. One of the benefits of being a liaison to outside groups is that I'm constantly running into the Alexandria the Commission on Aging chair, and we have just personal conversations, and it's a wonderful way to see under the tent. Alexandria has a commission, same laws, same makeup and whatnot. And it's interesting to see how they are going. They are struggling continually. They have a full roster of commissioners, but they've just brought on a bunch of new ones. That's it.
Well, I'll jump in there and say that we are in need of some new commissioners, as well as we have some folks who are cycling off and we have some vacancies. So I think Helen sent out, or Rachel, an email that can be passed along to all your networks. I don't know, Andrea and Link, if your communities, as well as others, Wendy, if there are individuals who might be interested, but we'd certainly love to have some new applicants approach and be interested in the commission. Thank you for that, Link. Wendy, Arlington Neighborhood Village.
Sure, thank you. I've been clicking back and forth, so I want to make sure that my camera and me are on. They are. Two things. One, FYI, we're up to 371 members, with a third of those, 126, being low income. So we've got a regular pipeline of new members coming in, with a very strong partnership that we've got with our affordable housing facilities, bringing in new members, and transportation is the #1 request. So we are always likewise on the lookout for volunteer drivers. So if you know someone who wants to, volunteer with us, please tell them to get in touch with us. The second thing is, I'm just going to do a commercial for something I think we all know about, which is the July 22nd home ownership get together. Link and I were at a meeting about a week ago in the evening on this. It's open to the public. They especially want those of us representing older adults to participate in this visioning and goal setting workshop, because the fear is that older adult perspective is not getting the attention that it needs. So the community workshop on home ownership vision, goals and objectives is July 22nd. And I just encourage people to participate. Rachel sent out a note on this. We can certainly put the link into the chat so people know about it. But it's a way to spend a couple of hours on a Saturday morning that will be well worth it for the long term.
Thank you. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. And I think that having that perspective is important. Again, different options in home ownership for older adults are something that they probably haven't been thinking about that much. So thank you very much for that, recommendation. Any questions of Wendy before we move on? Okay, Erica, the Commonwealth Council.
Yes. So my report will be very quick because the Commonwealth Council meets on Wednesday. So I'll have a much fuller report next time. But I will tell you that two things that are going to happen on Wednesday. The council will adopt its legislative platform. And I'm happy to say there will be, I think, a good amount of crossover between the NVAN platform and the Commonwealth Council platform. So that's a good thing. Secondly, and we've heard so much about Arlington Neighborhood Village today, there will be a speaker, Carol Paquette, at the council meeting to report on villages in Virginia. And I think that's really an important topic for the council members to hear. So I'll look forward to hearing that, and we'll report to you about that next time.
Great. Any questions of Erica? Okay, finally, I don't know who is going to cover the steering committee on older persons with Cheryl not being here, but do we have any report or update on that?
Yeah, there is a meeting scheduled for Friday at 10 a.m. It will be at Lubber Run. The topic is being finalized today, so the meeting notice should go out this afternoon. But it will either be on NVAN or on advocacy for nursing home changes. So we're just trying to bring heads together and get that finalized and who's going to speak, and then the meeting notice will go out today.
Great. Thank you very much for that. Any questions? All right. Is there any old business, anything we haven't covered that we should have discussed today from a prior meeting? Okay. Any new business? I don't see any hands up. Do we have any announcements? All right. Well, I wish everyone a pretty wonderful.
Excuse me, Linda.
Yes, sir, Roland.
Oh, I'm sorry, Linda. I had difficulty pressing the button for the hand, but I just have an announcement, and that is that last Monday, the Clarendon Presbyterian Church, along with the Arlington Partnership for Affordable Housing, sent out a notice to neighbors pretty much around Clarendon Presbyterian Church. And what the church did was to announce that they have applied to the Arlington County Board for a general land use plan amendment for the church property. And essentially what the church wants to do is they want to have they're requesting that the land be made eligible for apartment use. They're working with APAC to develop, or the goal is to develop more affordable senior housing. And they're also looking at making housing also welcoming for the LGBTQ plus community. They're going to have they're going to have 2 town meetings on this. The first is going to be on July 27th at Presbyterian Church at 7 p.m. I plan on attending that one. And there is a second town hall meeting on August 29th at Presbyterian Church. So I just wanted to make that announcement and find out from you, Linda, who I should have the church send the formal announcement of all of this to on behalf of the commission. Should I send it to you?
No, you should. Well, I think first of all, always include Helen and Rachel, and our chair of the Housing and Supportive Services is Audrey Kremer. So I would encourage that Audrey get that information. I wonder what they're going to do about the child care center that's been there for 40 years.
Well, my understanding is the child care center in the plan is going to be included. They're going to find temporary housing for the child care center, but the goal is to have it as part of the church when everything is completed. The church would be on the first floor, child care would be on the first floor. Everything above it will be affordable senior housing.
Wow, that's very interesting. My kids went to that child care center, and they are now 36 and 32. So that shows you the longevity of that organization. And I'm glad to hear that it's going to be preserved. That's wonderful. And thank you for that information. I know that APA welcomes partnerships with the church and faith community. And this is a really interesting, and it'll be it's in a neighborhood that has had to deal with this before with the Church of Clarendon. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, great.
All right.
So I will have them
questions?
send that information.
Yes,
Thank
please, sir. That would be great. Any other comments or questions of Roland? Any other announcements? All right. Well, have a wonderful August. Stay cool. We didn't even ask if Helen and Rachel about cooling centers for older adults. Do we have worries about that, or is the homeless community handling those kinds of things? I just wonder, because it is mighty hot out there, particularly for those who are living on the street. But we will see you all on September 18th, and we will be meeting in Sequoia. That's DHS. And have a pleasant summer, the rest of your summer. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.